It's always a good sign when your guest who's coming in is grooving to the music just like I am. My thanks to the guys from Love in Reverse for providing me with some of the theme music from their song Bella Baby. I'm Rob Back-and-Forth. This is the A-Game. Thanks for joining us on a Sunday morning. The gentleman to my right deserves a proper introduction because the man has done so much great work over the last many years as a singer, a songwriter, an author, and an actor. We'll get into that a little bit as well. He's also got a little side project with some guys you may be familiar with, this Smithereens. As a matter of fact, Ming, if you give me, I think, photo number 2, nice little holiday photo with the boys. There they are. Mike Massaros, Jim Babjack, Dennis Deacon, and my guest today, Marshall Crenshaw. Marshall, thank you so much for doing this, and thanks for coming on board.
Thank me. Good to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you getting up on a Sunday morning and doing this. And as somebody who's played your music in the past at FM 106.3 WHEG here on the Jersey Shore, thank you so much. It's where I discovered you and discovered that brilliant first album of yours. I mean, it's still one of those songs that when I play them and I'll go, hey, Alexa, and I'm just like, play the Marshall Crenshaw first album. Boom. Just sit back, play it top to bottom. It's still on my list of like top 5 albums of all time. And it seems to be that's an album that has aged so wonderfully.
Great. I'm glad to hear it. I mean, to hear it from another person is nice. I mean, I have my own take on it, but yeah, longevity is pretty cool. And, you know, back then it was just impossible to imagine such a thing as 40 years down the road. What on earth could that possibly be like? And now here we are, and people still say nice things about the record. So I love that.
Yeah, it'll be 40 years in April. And I know a lot of bands nowadays are celebrating anniversaries. Will you celebrate an anniversary with the album in any way, shape, or form?
Yes. Whatever year it was, we did I guess it was 2011. I'm bad at math, and I'm
hey, look, I think we all have a especially early in the morning.
It was 2011, I think. Mm-hmm. We did a 30th anniversary thing at the City Winery in New York.
Nice.
For 3 nights, and you know, like I brought in my brother Robert and my brother John, and we played the whole album all the way through, and played other stuff, and did this little presentation and stuff. And now, next year, for the actual 40th anniversary of the album, there's going to be a re-release, and like a real nice, classy re-release through a label called Yep Rock Records. I made a licensing deal with them for the album, so that's, you know, I'm excited about that. That comes out, I think, in the springtime.
Ming, if you give me photo number 1, this was the album art from that first album that came out. And I'm going to go back to something you just said, Marshall. It's like you have your own views about the album. I mean, how do you look at it from your perspective now? I mean, is it love? Is it where you go, well, maybe I could have done that better, or maybe I could have done... I get the feeling that maybe you would have done maybe a few things differently, or am I reading that wrong?
No, I love it. You know, at the time I was sort of ambivalent about it, but it's just like a hard thing. It was really a hard thing to do, to make that album. You know, there's just so much expectation and you know, kind of human drama with the whole thing. But my own view about it now is that my first and second album kind of go in tandem. It's like if you're really interested in what I was doing,
yes,
at that time, then you need to have both. And
I would definitely agree.
There's also a thing of Field Day the year following next year, because the 2 albums came out within less than a year of one another, which is kind of funny, but
and it's rare nowadays. You know, you hear artists, they'll wait 4 or 5 years before they release an album. So back then, that was, you know, that was definitely an accomplishment.
Yeah, it was a funny move to make, but anyway, so within short succession, there'll be 40th anniversary editions of my first album and my second album. And I really love both of them, but they both kind of, like I said, it's like they go in tandem in my mind.
Right. Well,
And then even beyond that, there's this other album. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead. No, go right ahead, please, Marshall.
There's this other. I forget, but oops, I see that.
Yeah, no problem. You're good. Keep going.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, keep going, bud.
This other album that I put out called The 9-Volt Years, which is a bunch of home recordings that I made before I did my first album. And so really, that's my view, is that if you're interested in what I was doing at that moment in my life, then get all three and you'll have the complete picture.
And as somebody who's a fan, the picture I get at times, and as somebody who's gone through, a breakup or somebody that you cared about that kind of, came in and out of your life. I mean, that first song that gets me every time. From my window every day, I see this girl go down the highway, and I keep thinking she's trying to catch my eye. Standing alone, I see her walk on by, and there she goes again with another guy. So, I mean, we've all gone through it. I think that's the thing about the songs. We all felt that at some point. You connected with us in that level.
Yeah, it's not specifically about any particular thing, but it's sort of like a composite of human experience. And yeah, I mean, it's all just rock and roll lyric language, but hopefully it's got a sort of a personalized thing about it, But yeah, I did sort of have a mental image of a picture window in my friend's house. I had a childhood friend from grade school named Charlie Thornburg. And I'm still in touch with him. After I'd known him for a couple of years, we were really close. He moved out of the Detroit area and moved up to this town at the, like, Michigan is shaped like a thumb or a mitten, right?
Right.
So he moved like up here, and
so that puts him like Grand Rapids area, I think.
No, Grand Rapids is over here.
Oh, okay, so the other side, here. Right? Okay, gotcha.
West side, yeah. And it's funny because in the Detroit area, I had hardly any awareness of the west coast of the state,
right?
And like that's sort of an extension of Chicago, like they're more influenced over there by Chicago than they are by Detroit. But anyway, my friend moved up to this coastal town up at the tip of the thumb, and this picture window in his house. He lived on a busy road, and whenever I'd go and visit him, I would get caught up in all the stuff that was going on in his social life and in that sphere. And yeah, I had this mental image when I was working on that song, There She Goes Again, just of cars on that road and just people and, situations.
And again, like I say, as somebody who's listened to that song so many times, especially if I'm going through a tough time, because the lyrics just poignantly it helps. I think in a sense for me, it was like healing, because you sit there, it's a sad situation, but I know just what I ought to do. I'm going to find somebody better. You go have fun. And I'm going to go on. And there's positivity, but it's almost like, they say, you can have a relationship, you go through the stages of grieving when it's all said and done. In a sense, you kind of bring all that into that one song.
And I think it's a nice piece of music too.
It is, absolutely.
And, that's the other thing about my stuff, is it's just like a celebration of the music and how much it meant to us always. And, like the drum beat on that tune, my brother plays triplets on the hi-hat, like eighth note triplets.
Right.
And I heard that pattern on a couple of records that I really liked. One being Backfield in Motion by Mel and Tim. That's got the triplets on the hi-hat. And then there's, of course, one of the most beautiful records of all is It's All Right by the Impressions with the triplets on the hi-hat. So we would just grab these little bits of records that we loved and kind of put it all in the blender So that's the other thing I like about There She Goes Again. It just comes slamming right in there with that groove, and the guitars are really nice. And yeah.
It's interesting how much of an influence R&B really does have on your music over the years.
Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up with top 40 radio in the 50s and 60s.
Right.
And
at that time, very R&B influenced. Very good point.
It was just eclectic, popular music. By that time, rock and roll, that's when the racial barrier really broke down.
Well said.
With popular music and youth culture. I mean, not literally in the public realm, but on the radio, it was like that, and I loved it. That was just what the music was to me at the time. It's just this meeting place of black music and white music. And I remember Dick Clark, like I'd watch American Bandstand. A friend of mine pointed this out to me, that when he was interviewing somebody, he would talk to everybody exactly the same way, and he'd use the same kind of tone and manner, whether the person was black or white. And my friend just said, that just like made us impress his mind, that Clark would do that, and I thought, yeah, that was, anyhow.
The funny thing is, since you mentioned
Dick Clark, heavy topic, but right.
No, it's funny because you're mentioning Dick Clark, and you guys were on American Bandstand back in the day. I'm going to take a clip from that because it is going to set up the next couple of questions. So I'll take a trip down memory lane. This is right around 1982, 1983, when you were on American Bandstand. Let's hit it.
Why do you work so hard? I don't mean right this minute, but why do you travel all the time?
We travel to accommodate our thousands and thousands of fans.
He's serious, you know that. No, you really are a hard worker. Now, why did you move from Detroit to New York?
That happened by chance. I was hired to be a John in Beatlemania.
Wait a minute. We better clear that up. That's right, you played John Lennon for about 18 months. Did you enjoy that?
It was okay. I did it for 2 months here at the Pantages in Hollywood.
Did you learn anything from hiding behind his facade?
Not really, no. Actually I did. I learned that I wasn't cut out to be an actor and that I didn't like the theater.
And then you did your own thing.
I'm watching your reaction off screen, and I think there's part of you that's like, oh my God, where did he find that? And at the same token, it probably brings back a lot of memories and seeing your brother behind the drums during that whole thing in American Bandstand. But it actually sets me up beautifully here because I look at some of the comments you made. I mean, obviously doing 18 months on Beatlemania was a great experience, and to have that forethought to go, you know what, I'm not really an actor. But then LaBamba falls into your lap, even though it's a small role. You get to play Buddy Holly, obviously a man that you absolutely admire, and you do it. And was there ever a thought after that was like going, well, man, wait a minute, because you said it so many years earlier. You do the acting, but you still never really got bit by the quote-unquote acting bug, did you?
No, I never did. And, it's crazy that I was in the movies, but I was, it just at the time it made sense, and I'm glad it happened. It's amazing that it happened. I think maybe at least 50% of the reason anybody knows my name now has to be because of LaBamba. No doubt about it. And I got that was one of the times back then when I got rescued from my own stupidity. Because I didn't want to do it when they first asked me to do it.
Really?
And I don't know. Just I was kind of a mixed up kid, right? But
now that I'm thinking about it, Marshall, was there ever a thought then, that all right, if I play this, they're going to compare me more to Buddy Holly than ever before? Did that enter your mind at that point at all?
Yeah, it did. And plus I'd been in Beatlemania,
right?
And got bored with, I don't know what it was, but whatever it was faulty logic on my part, and somebody or some combination of persons kind of like insisted that I do it and that I not be a stupid asshole. But so that was fortunate, you know, because if it had been left up to me, maybe I would have just said no. My wife and I lately we have been cleaning out our attic, which has been really interesting. And one of the things that I found was a letter from Taylor Hackford where he's trying to talk me into being in LaBamba.
Oh, wow.
And he was really nice about it. You know, that's what struck me about it was how classy he was and how nice and how he knew how to finesse somebody that didn't have a clue and to get what he wanted from them. But it was great. And then I did it, loved doing it. And then after we shot the second day, he and I went out to dinner with him.
Right.
And that was really cool, memorable. You know, he was talking to me that night about the Chuck Berry movie that he had just finished. And, you know, I found all of that to be really interesting. And then he was telling me about this documentary that he'd just seen called Say Amen Somebody, which is a great movie. You can still find it out there. And it's a movie about gospel singers.
Oh, cool.
And when I got home from doing LaBamba, I took a train home after I did it. Took one of my cross-country train trips. And I watched the documentary and I learned something in there that stayed with me over the years. There's a scene where the choir director gives a vocal lesson to one of her students, and just stuff she said about the mechanics of singing. It was like a lesson for me in that movie, you know. So anyway, I'm so glad I did LaBamba. And the other thing was, it was again, it was less than 12 months after we'd been in another movie called Peggy Sue Got Married.
You were in the. It was kind of a small part, but you were in the band. If I
We
remember.
were just kind of like scenery, you know. We didn't have any dialogue, but we were in it, you know. We got paid on a SAG contract, and then same thing with LaBamba. So 2 in 1 year meant that I got a SAG card, and that's really stood me in good stead over the years. So these are situations that I honestly just lucked into. That you know, back then I had bad luck sometimes and I had great luck sometimes. But I just kind of bumbled my way along.
Well, for somebody who bumbled their way along, you did a really nice job with that. And there is one scene that, if I may, Ming, let's pull that out for a second. This is the scene at the end. Very poignant scene because it really does drive home the tragedy that did happen. This is the clip from LaBamba with Marshall Crenshaw playing Buddy Holly. Take a look.
All right, Richie, now here's the situation. I heard how you felt about flying. I didn't think you want to know about this airplane stuff. It's between Tommy and you now. I'm going to toss this coin. Call it, Richie. Heads! Heads it is! All right, Richie, let's fly, boy. Awesome. You're back on the bus. Have a good ride, man. We'll see you in North Dakota.
Sorry, Tommy. The first coin toss I ever won.
Hey, come on, let's go. Whoa! Jesus.
Yeah. Hey, Richie, relax, man. Everything's cool. Besides, the sky belongs to the stars, right?
Such an iconic movie, without question.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's really, like I said, it's had longevity like crazy. It just, there was just a theatrical re-release not that long ago, you know, limited, but yeah, it's iconic. It's iconic as you know, like a Latinx, is that what the term is? You know, it's Richie Valens is an iconic figure in Latino. I don't want to use the wrong term, but you know what I'm saying. It's like
Latino culture.
It remains of interest for that reason, but you know, yeah, it's just really hung in there. It's on
As you were-
TV. And stuff,
Yeah,
you know?
it's on TV a lot of times. Yeah. As you
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
you've looked into a lot of stuff. So let me talk about getting involved with the Smithereens. Was that sort of a luck into situation?
Jump ahead to them. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Did you really, when you talk about lucking into things, getting into the Smithereens, was that just sheer luck of the, you knew the guys and there was a phone call and you said, yeah, you know what, let's try this and see if this will have some fun.
Well, it happened like this. I've known those guys forever since day one.
Yeah.
And then Pat,
Pat's passing, yes.
left the building, and there was a big. Well, it turned into a tribute show for him. At first, it was just a gig that they had.
Yeah, this was the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey, as a matter of
That's
fact.
right. They showed the bill with Scandal, Patti Smythe and Scandal.
Mhm.
But then Pat died, and so they reorganized it as a tribute show and brought in people from all over the place to take part. Were you there yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah. Anyhow, I don't know about everybody, but most people who were there, I think, really loved it and kind of treasured it.
Indeed.
Because it was backstage for sure. It was like a big class reunion or a family reunion, not to use a cliche, but I just really loved it. I loved being there with all those people because all of us kind of have this shared moment in history, our personal history, the early 80s when we were all young and we were all getting into show business and everything like that. And it was like a really vibrant time in our lives. And here we all are. Right. It was one of those things. I've been to like other memorial services where it turns into something emotionally. It's bittersweet, but it's not sad,
Right. It's more of it is a celebration. You are sad, but you are celebrating a life as opposed to being more sad about it. You are celebrating the accomplishments of a great guy and a great band.
Right, but we're also celebrating ourselves and each other,
Well said, yes.
That's what really hit me. And I played my 3 songs with the guys, and it was really fun. They're just like a great rock and roll band.
Absolutely.
So anyhow, I dug all of that. It was really memorable and a keeper kind of an experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of weeks later, I got a call from Dennis asking me if I would do this TV show with them. It was a thing on some PBS stations, about rock music personalities that had passed away in the previous year.
Right.
So I did that. It was fun. It was me and Graham Maybe and Dennis and Jimmy. All right, so then another few weeks go by, and I hear from Dennis again, and he says, well, our fans really want us to keep going. And, we're going to organize some gigs and da-da-da. And so he asked me if I could do the gigs. And I'm still in the aftermath of this beautiful experience that I've had.
Sure.
At the memorial service. And on top of that, or alongside of it, it's also my wife and my 40th wedding anniversary.
Oh, wow.
We happened to be, we went to New York City for a couple of days for our anniversary. So it just had all this kind of emotional significance for me that night. And so he asked me to do the shows, and I'm still kind of feeling the buzz from that night. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And so I think that first time we went out to Illinois, and I forget, but I'm sorry. The first one was at the Outpost in the Burbs in Montclair.
Okay.
And we learned like 35 songs. I think we played them all that night. But anyhow, I've just continued to get the calls and the emails. Can you do these gigs?
Yeah.
And I don't have any reason to say no. I'm still am getting a huge kick out of it.
I can tell by your facial reaction just by talking about it. You're like going, yeah, this has been fun. And as long as you get to hang out with some friends and it becomes that kick, you'll keep doing it.
It's great, and it's fun to play with them. It's just really good kind of meat and potatoes rock and roll music. Dennis is a great drummer.
Oh, absolutely.
It's it's just a real thrill to play with a great rock and roll band and a great drummer for that matter. I play with lots of different really great drummers, and one of them is Dennis. And it's a gas, Plus we like each other, like I like him. Yeah. I like all the guys a lot. So I'm just doing it.
It's a unique situation that's going on with the Smithereens. As a matter of fact, there's a gig coming up December 4th. They'll debut the Carteret Performing Arts Center. It really is a homecoming for the Smithereens and Carteret. You and Robin Wilson of the Gin Blossoms are kind of sharing the duties, doing the gigs as the lead singer when it makes sense for the schedule. And there's an interesting twist as far as the connection with you and Robin Wilson, because you helped pen one of their biggest hits, if I remember correctly, Till I Hear It From You.
Correct. I did. And it was funny because I didn't meet him until after the song was already on the radio.
I didn't know that. Wow.
But, Jesse Valenzuela of the Gin Blossoms reached out to me after they had their first hit album and everything. It was great. I mean, he just kind of sought me out and befriended me, and we befriended each other. And he said, he asked me to write the tune with him or to help him write it. And he said that, it's going to be in this movie and da-da-da. Mm-hmm. And we were both going to be at South by Southwest that year. So we got together and finished off this piece of music that he had. He had the title already. They already knew it was going to be in this movie, which was pretty beautiful. It was a really kind of an amazing setup that I walked into, and I helped him finish the song. But there were no lyrics. Robin wrote the lyrics, and I believe that he wrote them like at the recording session or, at the last minute. And they're good lyrics too.
But they are.
But again, I didn't meet him until after the song was already on the radio, and it was a thing where they played at Roseland Ballroom.
I remember that venue. Absolutely.
I got invited to join them that day, and I'm not kidding. I was parking my car in a garage across from the Roseland Ballroom, and I heard Till I Hear It From You on the radio as I was pulling into the garage. And I mean, it blew up when it came out, right?
Yeah, it did.
It really did. So it was all really cool.
It's definitely going to be a cool experience. If you want tickets, go to the Carteret's website, and you're in for a great experience there. And thanks to Marshall Crenshaw here on the A Game. All right, I go to my segment known as Random Shots. These questions can come from anywhere. And a couple of them, I think I'm going to get your opinion on things, because as I learn some things about you, I think you'll understand as I ask these questions. I'm going to start with, if I can get photo number 5 up here. This is a book that you had put out back in the 90s, Hollywood Rock, A Guide to Rock and Roll in the Movies. And it's one of those things where since the book has been out, there are movies that have come out in this genre. I want to get your take on a few of these movies. Maybe you've seen them, maybe you haven't.
Oh, great! You're gonna name the movies. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you the movie, and I'll give you the year and see if you've seen it and get your take on it. So,
all right.
Obviously, we'll go past 1994 since you wrote about 150 movies, good and bad. I picked out 4 of some interest. Let me start with Ray from 2004, the Ray Charles documentary, biopic. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I saw it. I went to the movies and saw it, and I loved it. I thought it was great. And when we got home from the movie theater, I pulled down my copy of David Ritz's book about Ray Charles, which is an autobiography co-written by Ray and by David Ritz. Mm-hmm. And I'm flipping through it, and what do I find in the book? But I find a letter or a note that was written to me by Wayne Kramer of the MC5.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and he had seen us at CBGB's and liked the set, and he's introducing himself, like he has to introduce himself to me. And
yeah, I'm about to say,
phone number at the bottom. It's a 212 number. But so anyway, I love the movie. I remember the day I saw it because of that little thing with the Wayne Kramer letter.
But that's great. You can associate a really good memory to that movie. I like that. And it had nothing to do with the movie, which is even better. I think that's fantastic.
Not at all, yeah.
Let me go to Almost Famous from around 2000.
Never saw it.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, the Cameron Crowe movie, you're talking about the young kid, the Rolling Stone reporter. Definitely worth checking out. I think you might like that one.
I don't know if I would. I don't feel a real strong affinity for that classic rock world, honestly. But anyway, go ahead.
No, it's interesting you say that because technically you're in the classic rock world a little bit.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
2019, the movie that came out was called Yesterday. The premise being one man is the only man in the world who can know all the songs about the Fab Four, and suddenly he starts singing the songs from the Beatles, and everybody loves them.
Didn't see it.
That's one of those, you got to let fantasy take over. And if you watch it, if you like the Beatles, it might pique your interest. I
did a thing on my radio show. I had a show on WFUV.
FUV, yeah, absolutely.
I did a thing about what if the British invasion had never happened, and I played, silly, just mental exercise bullshit. But
but again,
I found a chart, a top 40 chart from the station that I used to listen to in 63, 64 was WKNR in the Detroit area. And I went down the whole list and just played records from that survey. It was the week before I Want to Hold Your Hand made its debut on the Keener Music Guide. And I started at number one. The number one record week was Anyone Who Had Heart by Dionne Warwick. Wow. And I just kind of went down from there, and it's just all this great stuff. And when the Beatles came out, I loved them and I still love them. But, like people say, before they came along, it was like everything was in black and white and da-da-da. But, the music from the early 60s that gets bad-mouthed, I think it's amazing. It was anyhow, I didn't see that movie, but maybe I'll see it.
No. And since you mentioned WFUV, The Bottomless Pit was your show. I mean, you obviously, just the way you're talking, you enjoyed the experience of doing a radio show like that and being able to do it where it's like, hey, I'm going to play this and tell these stories and kind of go about your collection. And I get the feeling it's like one of those things where you might miss it. You haven't done it in a while, have you?
No, I haven't. I stopped doing it at the beginning of 2018, and I did love doing it. It was really fun, and I was really happy when people picked up on it, and I really, it was a gas, it was great.
It's an interesting thing that you have with Dennis, because Dennis, of course, had his radio show on WFMU doing Denny's Men. So I can imagine you two just talking like radio shop at times and like going, hey, you should play this song, or you should play that song.
It's crazy the stuff that he and I can talk about, and just
I can imagine.
It's really fun, because he just loves a lot of the same stuff that I love.
I got one more movie for you, and I know you have an opinion on this one. Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Yeah. Right. My name is on that one.
Yes,
right?
It is, as a matter of fact. Who approached you about writing the main song for Walk Hard?
Let me see. The guy I heard from was a fellow named Jake Goralnik, son of Peter Goralnik. Jake's a great guy. He's a manager. He manages Nick Lowe and a band called Little Straight Jackets, and he's one of the founders of Yep Rock Records. And he's also a guitar player, although I've never heard him play, but people say he's a good guitar player. Anyhow, Jake had been on the phone with a music supervisor named Tom and Jake. They're having a conversation about whether Nick Lowe might want to write songs for Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, because they just approached a lot of songwriters.
Sure.
And in the script, they had like all the titles of the songs that they wanted. They figured out the titles and maybe little fragments of lyrics for each one. Mm-hmm. So they would get songwriters to write like a dozen or 30 songs for each title, like they would get all these submissions for each title. And the first one, anyway, Jake I heard from Jake first, and he said, well, this guy Tom's going to reach out to you. So we talked, and it sounded cool. You know, he told me what the movie was about, and I thought, oh, that sounds like it's got to be a winner right there. And I wrote one called "Take My Hand." They wanted a song called "Take My Hand," and I sent it in, and they said, "Oh, we love it. It's amazing." And but they didn't use mine. They used somebody else's. Yeah, but then he said, "Well, why don't you take a crack at the theme song?"
Okay.
And so I did, you know, and I wrote it. It was really easy to write. I mean, it was like the second easiest song I ever wrote. It just came to me in a flash, and you know, I got into the whole spirit of the thing and the joke of it, you know.
Right. That's the funny thing.
So I got the theme song. They got, for all the other songs, they got maybe like 30 entries. And then for the theme song, they got like 150 or something like that. Mine was the one, you know. That came out.
And if you see the movie, the main song is sort of a hybrid of part Johnny Cash, part Elvis, part Buddy Holly. You put it together and you get "Walk Hard."
It's got some Roy Orbison in there too, with all
that's a very good point,
high notes and stuff. So yeah, and I just tried to capture the whole spirit of the thing, you know.
It's a funny spoof, and that's what it is. And right off the top of my head, they took aim at everybody. I mean, there was one point where I can remember Dewey in the movie. Basically, he's breaking up with his wife. He's like, "You can take the kids, you can take the house, but you can't take my monkey." And you're just kind of going, "Yeah, nobody's out of bounds on this one." They just had, you could tell they were having just really good fun with this and good nature, and a little bit of innuendo too.
Yeah, it was great. It's a cult classic.
Oh, definitely. On the list of cult classics, that definitely is on there. It's Random Shots with Marshall Crenshaw. Okay, I'm going to go to 2 of your songs. And this is unique because one song, these are both songs that were covered, but I want to get your take on them. So the best cover version of songs that you have sung, and I emphasize that because one of them is Some Hearts, the Diane Warren song that you released around 1989, which was covered by Carrie Underwood. Then there's My Favorite Waste of Time, which was originally covered by Bette Midler, but became a hit by this guy, Owen Paul, who put it in the top 5 in the UK. And honestly, before this, Marshall, I had no idea about it, so I finally listened to it, and I'm kind of going, wow, they took Marshall's song, they took Bette Midler's beat, and created that. And I'm sure, you know, these are definitely, one you wrote, one you made your song. I mean, is there a better one, or is it just you kind of look at it and go, okay?
It just happened. I had no control over it, you know. With the Favorite Waste of Time, I have no comment about the other one, but
okay, fair enough.
Favorite Waste of Time. I just wrote it.
Right.
I didn't even write it. I never even wrote it down. I just made it up in my head, and then I recorded it myself on my 4-track equipment. My version is the one, you know, if you've heard my version of it, that's a home recording, just lots of overdubbing on this 4-track machine that I had. And you know, it just kind of found its way out in the world somehow, and it's one of those things. I do love that factor of the whole thing, just the sheer random unpredictability of things that happen is something I love, actually. And that's, like you said, Bette Midler did it. That was another one of those moments where I got rescued from my own stupidity, because by the time her version came out, the publishing had reverted to me. So then it was, when it was a smash all over the world, I was the sole publisher and sole writer on the song. And it was just like, wow, you know, it really rescued me in a big way.
Then you saw the check. There you go.
It still does every once in a while, you know, like the song is, as we both know, you know, like no rock song that was ever a hit ever dies anymore. They just constantly are out there. And so that song has that kind of endless life, you know, on the radio in Europe and so forth. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't have planned any of that. I just made up this little thing, this little ditty in my head.
Yeah.
Made this crazy crude recording of it, and now, you know, it's just like it's been such a stalwart thing in my catalog over the years. It's amazing.
Yeah, and that's a song you have no problem pulling out on your own and kind of going, hey, look, if I'm doing a Marshall Crenshaw show, it almost feels like you have to pull it out and play it, which I don't think you have a problem with.
Well, I do really like the track. I love my home recordings from that period. I'm just like all fired up with. I'm on a creative binge during that time in my life for the first time in my life. And it just, it turned out good.
Getting back to movies on this next one on Random Shots, I hear you've been working on a documentary film on producer Don Wilson. If I can have photo number 7 so people can see who Don Wilson was. Very influential. As a producer, he worked with Dylan, Zappa, the Velvet Underground, Simon and Garfunkel. I mean, I get the feeling this is a passion project. How long have you been working on this?
First of all, did you say Don Wilson?
I said Tom Wilson. Yeah, I didn't say.
Okay.
If I said Don, I apologize to him immediately.
Don's the guy, was the announcer on the Jack Benny show. Don Wilson.
So I apologize.
Tom Wilson.
Tom here, yes.
My assertion of Tom Wilson is that you just don't get popular music as we've known it over the past 50 years without him, because for a lot of reasons. He just was somebody who really had vision, and just you look down the list, the bullet points of his legacy.
Yeah. And
it's like a list of some of the very most crucial provocateurs in the popular music of the last, my lifetime. And
right.
It starts with Sun Ra and Cecil Taylor. Tom Wilson graduated from Harvard in 1954. Soon after that, he established a record label called Transition Records. And it was like a really kind of bold, forward-looking endeavor. And he signed Sun Ra in 1956, and he signed Cecil Taylor in 1957. And those two artists, just the DNA of popular music. Mm-hmm. They had a real. Anyhow, from there, his own label failed business-wise, but not artistically. But anyway, eventually he lands a gig at Columbia Records, and he's the first African-American A&R person, staff producer at Columbia. And at that time, like a producer, they weren't their own boss.
Right.
They could bring in stuff that they wanted to sign, but they had to get it approved by the, powers in the A&R department. And he did some of that, but he got kind of tasked with finishing Bob Dylan's second album, the freewheeling Bob Dylan. So he did that. He did the last session for the album, and it had Masters of War and Girl from the North Country, a couple of the real crucial songs on the album. And after that, he and Bob hit it off, so they continued to work together for like the next couple, 2-3 years. And Wilson took Bob Dylan through that whole period where he went from being a folk troubadour to the rock star. Mm-hmm. They went from Masters of War to like a Rolling Stone. That was the last thing that Wilson produced for him. And then right around the same time, he made Simon and Garfunkel into a thing. And if you, I don't know how old you are, but I remember 1965 when
I wasn't born yet. Sorry.
Okay, I was around. I was about 12 years old, and just a constant obsessive over what was on the radio.
Yeah.
And I remember when Sounds of Silence and Like a Rolling Stone were both #1 records within a short succession of one another, and that was like a 1-2 punch for popular music. Those two records in tandem really just like stood popular music on its head, and it just changed the culture, the whole culture of the 60s, those two records. And Tom Wilson, on the morning of June 15th, 1965, he overdubbed the electric instruments onto the acoustic version of Sounds of Silence, which he'd also produced.
Right.
He put the electric instruments on that track in the morning, and then that afternoon was the first session for Like a Rolling Stone.
Wow.
So just in, a 24-hour period, this guy just blows up popular music as a record producer. I'm not taking credit away from anybody. The artist, obviously, that would be stupid, but you gotta give it up for somebody who has their fingerprints on those two things in particular, but so much more besides. He signed the Velvet Underground. Nobody was going to sign them. Nobody was going to take a crack at them except him. That's what history tells us. And then he also signed Frank Zappa, same thing. Nobody was going to do that. So he was a landscape shifter as far as popular music goes. He just changed the whole, you have to give him credit. And
Absolutely.
the fact that nobody knows who he is it's abominable, right? It's crazy. And his story is like so interesting. I love this project.
Yeah. I mean, this has legs. I think what's interesting, Marshall, is I don't know how you see this. Is it straight documentary, or do you see it potentially going the biopic route like Ray did? Because either way, I think this could be an amazing project.
Well, we're doing the documentary, and I've been at it for a long time, and we're like, it's happening. It's on the path, and but Tom's son has a project where he's going to try to develop a scripted film about his dad. So, that maybe that'll happen. I hope it does.
Well, if Tom's
There's
son,
a lot of things you could do like a jukebox musical about him. It'd be a really crazy one, but it's Cecil Taylor and but he also worked with Connie Francis too. I mean, the guy his range was the full spectrum of popular music of his time.
I was thinking about this. It's funny you're saying his son is thinking about doing a scripted version of his life. I was thinking who could play him, and I'm going, all right, actor, sophisticated, has some musical chops. Give me photo number 8. This is what I came up with. Terrence Howard would probably be a guy. Ming, if you give me photo number 8 real quick. This guy. Terrence actually looks a little like Wilson. That's why I thought he's got Yeah, he's got the look. He can sing. He's a guy that has a musical background and a good actor. So I thought that could be the guy.
Plus, he was on that TV show about the music business.
Yes,
too.
he was, as a matter of fact, on Fox.
So, that's a pretty good call, I guess.
Thank you very much. Let me get 2 more random shots before we wrap up here. Excuse me on that. I apologize. Let me get photo number 9. You have a connection with the Stone Pony. Obviously, you've played there in Asbury Park many times, but you actually once recorded a show there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did. Well, that wasn't my idea, but it happened.
Oh, is that one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm not going to argue this because I'll know if I do, I'm just going to F myself. So, all right, fine, let's record it.
Well, I had no reason to argue. I mean,
okay, there you go.
Again, I'm just saying, it was King Biscuit Flour Hour.
Yep.
They decided to start packaging some of their. This was still during the CD boom era, yes. Right? And but I mean, they had some of my stuff in their archives, but they decided for some reason to do new material, and that's all. They just asked me to do one and asked me if to do it at the Stone Pony, and I'm like, yeah, it'd be great. I was playing solo a lot at that time. That's kind of what I was used to at that time.
Right.
And I just figured, well, let's do it this way. It's different, and that's all it was to it.
You got to know, me being a Jersey Shore guy, I had to bring up the Pony. Just had to do that.
I love that place.
Yeah, it's a great venue. It really is. Props to Kyle Brendel and everybody over there at the Pony. And one last random shot. It was last season on the Goldbergs. Here's Someday Someway on an episode of the Goldbergs. What was your reaction? Like, you mean I'm going to be on one of the most popular shows on ABC? What?
It happens, like
story of your career. I love it.
Maybe like 2-3 years before then, Someday Someway was on another show. It was on a show on Netflix, I think, with Drew Barrymore.
Okay.
And now I can't remember the name of it, but that song just continues to live and breathe, and people like it. People like the track. I really like the track. But I think it's a really beautiful rock and roll record. It's got the Phil Spector sleigh bells on it. It's got the white noise. It's got the drone in it where I just play one note all the way through the song. So it's like a hypnotic drone. And my brother plays this beautiful feel on the drums. And I'm glad, people still like it. I still like it. Music supervisors give it some love once in a while.
This is true.
It's just, yay.
Well, let me give you a couple of yay moments before we mention the Smithereens show with you again. Upcoming gigs with Marshall Crenshaw, if you're around the area. December 10th at the Sellersville Theater. That's out in Bucks County. It is worth the trip if you want to go out there. December 11th at my old stomping ground in Wilmington, Delaware, is the Arden Concert Guild. To my friends in Delaware, go to Stanley's Tavern for dinner beforehand, and literally a 3-minute ride from Stanley's is the Guild. You'll have a great night. And then December 12th at Daryl's house up in Dutchess County in New York State.
And we're going to be at the Iridium on February 6th, too. And when I say we, I'm talking about, I'm calling it an acoustic rock and roll band because I'm playing acoustic guitars, and then Graham maybe is the bass player. He has an acoustic bass, and then we have we have Manuel Quintana, who lives near me, and he, it's kind of eclectic.
Right.
It's not like a drum set that he plays. It's the setup that he has. And he and I played together on October 16th in Ardmore, PA, and I really loved it, so I want to get a little back into the acoustic thing a little bit.
Cool.
But, for those shows you just named, we'll have a bass player. So.
For future shows, visit MarshallCrenshaw.com. Follow him on Facebook to get the most latest information. The big show that's coming up, as he and Robin Wilson, the Gin Blossoms, will split the duties with the Smithereens. It is a homecoming show for their hometown of Carteret, New Jersey. That will be December 4th at the new Carteret Performing Arts Center. Visit their website to get tickets. Still a few left for that. Should be a great night of music. Mr. Crenshaw, I thank you so much for your time. This has been a blast. It's been nice to go down and talk about a lot of things I've always wanted to ask you, so it's been much appreciated.
Thank you, Rob. I had a good time myself.
I'm glad to hear that. And
I
that's
hope I was on my A game.
You know what? I have a feeling you were, sir. I really do.
Great.
Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. We'll come back next week. I'm Rob Akinpora. Take care of yourself. Thanks for watching.